Section 10 of The Light That Failed. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. The Light That Failed by Rudyard Kipling. Chapter 7, Part 2. To each man is appointed his particular dread, the terror that, if he does not fight against it, must cow him even to the loss of his manhood. Dick's experience of the sordid misery of want had entered into the deeps of him, and, lest he might find virtue too easy, that memory stood behind him, tempting to shame, when dealers came to buy his wares. As the Nilghai quaked against his will at the still green water of a lake or a mill dam, as Torpenhow flinched before any white arm that could cut or stab, and loathed himself for flinching, Dick feared the poverty he had once tasted half in jest. His burden was heavier than the burdens of his companions. Maisie watched the face working in the moonlight. "You've plenty of pennies now," she said soothingly. "I shall never have enough," he began with vicious emphasis. Then, laughing, "I shall always be thruppence short in my accounts." "Why thruppence?" "I carried a man's bag once from Liverpool Street Station to Blackfriars Bridge. It was a sixpenny job. You needn't laugh, indeed it was, and I wanted the money desperately. He only gave me thruppence. And he hadn't even the decency to pay in silver. Whatever money I make, I shall never get that old thruppence out of the world." This was not language befitting the man who had preached of the sanctity of work. It jarred on Maisie, who preferred her payment in applause, which, since all men desire it, must be of the right. She hunted for her little purse, and gravely took out a threepenny bit. "There it is," she said. "I'll pay you, Dickie. And don't worry any more. It isn't worth while. Are you paid?" "I am," said the very human apostle of fair craft, taking the coin. "I'm paid 1,000 times, and will close that account. It shall live on my watch chain, and you're an angel, Maisie." "I'm very cramped, and I'm feeling a little cold. Good gracious, the cloak is all white, and so is your mustache. I never knew it was so chilly." A light frost lay white on the shoulder of Dick's ulster. He, too, had forgotten the state of the weather. They laughed together, and with that laugh ended all serious discourse. They ran inland across the waste to warm themselves, then turned to look at the glory of the full tide under the moonlight, and the intense black shadows of the furze bushes. It was an additional joy to Dick that Maisie could see color even as he saw it, could see the blue in the white of the mist, the violet that is in gray palings, and all things else as they are, not of one hue, but 1,000. And the moonlight came into Maisie's soul, so that she, usually reserved, chattered of herself and of the things she took interest in, of Cami, wisest of teachers, and of the girls in the studio, of the Poles, who will kill themselves with overwork if they are not checked, of the French, who will talk at great length of much more than they will ever accomplish, of the slovenly English, who toil hopelessly and cannot understand that inclination does not imply power, of the Americans, whose rasping voices in the hush of a hot afternoon strain tense-drawn nerves to breaking point, and whose suppers lead to indigestion, of tempestuous Russians, neither to hold nor to bind, who tell girls ghost stories till the girls shriek, of stolid Germans, who come to learn one thing, and, having mastered that much, stolidly go away and copy pictures for evermore. Dick listened enraptured because it was Maisie who spoke. He knew the old life. "It hasn't changed much," he said. "Do they still steal colors at lunch-time?" "Not steal. Attract is the word. Of course they do. I'm good. I only attract ultramarine. But there are students who'd attract flake white." "I've done it myself. You can't help it when the palettes are hung up. Every color is common property once it runs down, even though you do start it with a drop of oil. It teaches people not to waste their tubes." "I should like to attract some of your colors, Dick. Perhaps I might catch your success with them." "I mustn't say a bad word, but I should like to. What in the world, which you've just missed a lovely chance of seeing, does success, or want of success, or a three-storied success, matter compared with No, I won't open that question again. It's time to go back to town." "I'm sorry, Dick, but—" "You're much more interested in that than you are in me." "I don't know. I don't think I am." "What will you give me if I tell you a sure short-cut to everything you want, the trouble and the fuss and the tangle and all the rest? Will you promise to obey me?" "Of course." "In the first place, you must never forget a meal because you happen to be at work. You forgot your lunch twice last week," said Dick, at a venture, for he knew with whom he was dealing. "No, no, only once, really." "That's bad enough. And you mustn't take a cup of tea and a biscuit in place of a regular dinner, because dinner happens to be a trouble." "You're making fun of me." "I never was more earnest in my life. Oh, my love, hasn't it dawned on you yet what you are to me? Here's the whole earth in a conspiracy to give you a chill, or run over you, or drench you to the skin, or cheat you out of your money, or let you die of overwork and underfeeding, and I haven't the mere right to look after you. Why, I don't even know if you have sense enough to put on warm things when the weather's cold." "Dick, you're the most awful boy to talk to, really. How do you suppose I managed when you were away?" "I wasn't here, and I didn't know. But now I'm back, I'd give everything I have for the right of telling you to come in out of the rain." "Your success, too?" This time it cost Dick a severe struggle to refrain from bad words. "As Mrs. Jennett used to say, you're a trial, Maisie. You've been cooped up in the schools too long, and you think everyone is looking at you. There aren't 1,200 people in the world who understand pictures. The others pretend, and don't care. Remember, I've seen 1,200 men dead in toadstool beds. It's only the voice of the tiniest little fraction of people that makes success. The real world doesn't care a tinkers. Doesn't care a bit. For aught you or I know, every man in the world may be arguing with a Maisie of his own." "Poor Maisie!" "Poor Dick, I think. Do you believe while he's fighting for what's dearer than his life, he wants to look at a picture? And even if he did, and if all the world did, and 1,000,000,000 people rose up and shouted hymns to my honor and glory, would that make up to me for the knowledge that you were out shopping in the Edgware Road on a rainy day without an umbrella? Now we'll go to the station." "But you said on the beach—" persisted Maisie with a certain fear. Dick groaned aloud. "Yes, I know what I said. My work is everything I have, or am, or hope to be, to me, and I believe I've learnt the law that governs it. But I've some lingering sense of fun left, though you've nearly knocked it out of me. I can just see that it isn't everything to all the world. Do what I say and not what I do." Maisie was careful not to reopen debatable matters, and they returned to London joyously. The terminus stopped Dick in the midst of an eloquent harangue on the beauties of exercise. He would buy Maisie a horse, such a horse as never yet bowed head to bit, would stable it, with a companion, some 20 miles from London, and Maisie, solely for her health's sake, should ride with him twice or thrice a week. "That's absurd," said she. "It wouldn't be proper." Now, who in all London tonight would have sufficient interest or audacity to call us two to account for anything we chose to do? Maisie looked at the lamps, the fog, and the hideous turmoil. Dick was right. But horseflesh did not make for art as she understood it. "You're very nice sometimes, but you're very foolish more times. I'm not going to let you give me horses, or take you out of your way tonight. I'll go home by myself. Only I want you to promise me something. You won't think any more about that extra 3_d_, will you? Remember, you've been paid. And I won't allow you to be spiteful and do bad work for a little thing like that. You can be so big that you mustn't be tiny." This was turning the tables with a vengeance. There remained only to put Maisie into her hansom. "Good-bye," she said simply. "You'll come on Sunday. It has been a beautiful day, Dick. Why can't it be like this always?" "Because love's like line work. You must go forward or backward. You can't stand still. By the way, go on with your line work. Good night, and, for my sake, take care of yourself." He turned to walk home, meditating. The day had brought him nothing that he hoped for, but—surely this was worth many days— it had brought him nearer to Maisie. The end was only a question of time now, and the prize well worth the waiting. By instinct, once more, he turned to the river. "And she understood at once," he said, looking at the water. "She found out my pet besetting sin on the spot, and paid it off. My God, how she understood! And she said I was better than she was. Better than she was!" He laughed at the absurdity of the notion. "I wonder if girls guess at one half a man's life. They can't, or they wouldn't marry us." He took her gift out of his pocket, and considered it in the light of a miracle and a pledge of the comprehension that, one day, would lead to perfect happiness. Meantime, Maisie was alone in London, with none to save her from danger. And the packed wilderness was very full of danger. Dick made his prayer to fate disjointedly after the manner of the heathen as he threw the piece of silver into the river. If any evil were to befall, let him bear the burden and let Maisie go unscathed, since the threepenny piece was dearest to him of all his possessions. It was a small coin in itself, but Maisie had given it, and the Thames held it, and surely the fates would be bribed for this once. The drowning of the coin seemed to cut him free from thought of Maisie for the moment. He took himself off the bridge and went whistling to his chambers with a strong yearning for some man-talk and tobacco after his first experience of an entire day spent in the society of a woman. There was a stronger desire at his heart when there rose before him an unsolicited vision of the Barralong dipping deep and sailing free for the Southern Cross. Section 10.